I got a request. Someone asked me to compare the anti-vaccine sentiment on the left and the anti-vaccine sentiment on the right, because it used to be more focused, at least a few years ago, before Trump and the ushering in of conspiracy craziness within the Republican Party. Elements of it were probably already there, but it really just exploded with QAnon and a bunch of other crap, anti-vaccine crap. But it used to be more associated with the hippies and the environmentalists on the left. I remember this was big, and I'm going to be relying on a lot of memory here because it was hard for me to find receipts. But I remember back between 2013 and 2015, there was a lot of anti-vaccine. It was the peak of the anti-GMO movement on social media. I remember back then, every day I would see memes on Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, everywhere of, you guys probably remember this. Here we go. You probably saw like memes with like tomatoes with syringes going into it and it have some dumb caption like, oh, this is what you want to eat. This is what GMOs are. There was a lot of distrust of genetically modified organisms, which I think are a wonderful technology. Wonderful technology. There was a huge anti-GMO sentiment. And a lot of the people that were anti-GMO, a lot of the sources, a lot of the people that pimped this stuff also pimped a lot of anti-vaccine rhetoric for similar reasons. And I think the two main reasons were, one, the worship of nature, and two, a major skepticism, if not outright contempt for the profit motive in private enterprise. People, they hated GMOs because, oh my God, these are so unnatural. We're messing with nature. We're messing with genetics. Especially when you bring a lot of these same people are anti-pesticide. It's like, oh my God, we're killing the bees. What kind of ripple effect is this going to have on nature? A lot of pests, a lot of like natural pests are getting killed by these genetically modified fruit and vegetables that are explicitly designed to kill them, so we don't have to use pesticides to begin with. And I can't tell, I think the anti-GMO sentiment has since died. It's hard to tell whether or not it was successful. I think in some ways it was successful because now a lot of companies, especially if you watch Shark Tank, a lot of new entrepreneurs, food-based businesses, they'll come onto the Shark Tank, they'll come on and brag to Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, Barbara Corcoran, Lori Grenier, Mark Cuban, all the goofs on Shark Tank. I'm a huge fan of that show, by the way. They'll brag about how their food is non-GMO, you guys. Which I just roll my eyes at. Makes me lose respect for you, if anything. But yeah, they don't like it because it's messing with nature. But also, at the time, there was a lot of anti-GMO sentiment because people are like, oh, this is just some big ploy. It's just some big scheme by big corporations, by big biotech companies like Monsanto, who are using GMOs as a scheme to take over the entire world's food supply. Woo! Oh boy, the amount of contempt I saw for Monsanto back in those days. And you'd see a lot of the same rhetoric about vaccines. Mainly from environmentalist hippie types who said vaccines, they're kind of messing with nature. We can't really trust them. Natural immunity is better anyway. It's better to naturally boost your immune system. And we can't trust big pharma. You know, they're just doing it, to protect their bottom line. They're trying to get us relying on their vaccines long term. So we're just repeat customers. So every year, twice a year, 3 times a year, we got to get the flu vaccine and the measles vaccine and the smallpox vaccine and now the COVID vaccine. I tried to find sources for this. It was hard for me to do. I kind of found a couple sources that kind of echo this. One of them, I guess one of the big anti-vaxxers was this doctor named Robert Sears. And you can see it down here. Where is it? This is, I guess this is some journal from Pediatrics, official journal of the American Academy of Pediatrics. Not sure how reliable this source is, but I've seen other sources talk about Robert Sears, including Forbes articles. But he says natural infection is better than vaccination. Sears describes the value of chickenpox parties. Some parents may purposely get their child exposed to get the disease over with, he writes. If you've ever been invited to a chickenpox party, you'll know what I'm referring to. Having the disease in most cases provides lifelong immunity better than the shot provides. So right there, you see it right there. I also found this article on the BBC from 2015 and found this one excerpt. This sounds like a parody. Talks about this person who changed their mind on vaccines, says, I was only 20 years old when I got pregnant with my daughter, and I was really young and really naive, and I had gotten wrapped up in this worldview that said that nature is just a wonderful thing and that everything about our big, scary, industrialized world was bad. I thought that the government wasn't to be trusted, and I very much believed that in the idea that there was this big organization called Big Pharma. Does this not sound like a parody? And I thought that people would be willing to make my child sick to make $1. See, worship of nature and complete distrust of the profit motive. I think that's kind of what drove it from the left-wing side, because the environmentalists are more associated with the left, with their fear-mongering about GMOs, vaccines, fossil fuels. And I think we've seen this sentiment grow on the right for similar reasons, but also different reasons. I think instead of worshiping nature, a lot of people on the right, they worship God. A lot of people on the right don't trust modern medicine because they think we're playing God. And I actually did a video about this when I talked about Bill Gates, and I was wondering, where's all this stuff about microchips coming from? And I found out it came from a video from this religious zealot who said that these Bill Gates was putting these microchips into vaccines, which to an extent is true. I think, if I recall correctly, it's a certain chip that will detect whether or not your body has developed antibodies, and you can detect it with the microchip. But it's not like it's tracking your every move and behavior. But religious zealots see this as a mark of the devil. But even on the right, if you notice, a lot of people on the right are starting to embrace the left's premises, particularly on their flat-out contempt, if we're being charitable, distrust and skepticism toward Big Pharma. And we saw this recently with the Charlie Kirk-Vaush debate.
The real issue, for the most part, is just mandatory.
Well, I just also have another question. Do you think that there might be any bad motives behind these 4 companies, AstraZeneca, Moderna, Pfizer, and Johnson & Johnson, considering they are big pharma?
Oh, no, you guys. Big Pharma! Woo! Again, Charlie Kirk founded Turning Point USA, still the leader of it. Turning Point USA claims to defend capitalism, promote capitalism, teach students about free markets. Here he is, kind of all skeptical and suspicious of the profit motive.
And they pursue profits, which
Oh no, not profits, you guys. All right, let's...
Bad motives behind these 4 companies, AstraZeneca, Moderna, Pfizer. And
by the way, for those who don't know, the guy he's debating, not Tim Pool. This is on Tim Pool's show. Tim Pool generally, it's hard to tell where Tim Pool is, but Vaush is a communist. Or he calls himself a libertarian socialist. Whatever the fuck that means.
Johnson & Johnson.
But it's pretty clear if you watch enough Vaush, if there's one thing he hates, it's capitalism.
Considering they are big pharma.
And he definitely doesn't trust the profit motive, as you'll see.
They pursue profits, which generally, as a libertarian socialist, you're skeptical of. Do you think maybe they might have nefarious motives?
Oh, maybe they might have nefarious motives.
Their intentions are reprehensible. They have for many years made money off the backs of American deaths. The opioid crisis is almost entirely attributable to the malfeasance.
And the Sackler family.
Yeah, I mean, no moral love for these companies. If this could be, and by the way, the mRNA process was developed through public funding. It was, an effort invested in by the collective good. Something.
Now, Euron Brook did a show about this a few months ago where he talked about the history of mRNA and how actually the people who started research on it were getting rejected for government grants. And I'm still working on my video about the FDA, which will be coming out soon. And I looked into this issue. There's a lot of people who spread this myth. They talk about NIH funding and funding during COVID, and they make it sound like all of the funding for research and development for new drugs in the United States, it comes from the taxpayers. It's all subsidized. So essentially, all the intellectual property is illegitimate because they're really just profiting off the back of the taxpayers, which there is billions of dollars of investment. But when you really look into it, according to multiple sources, the overwhelming majority of research and development funding for drugs, the overwhelming majority of it comes from the private sector.
I'm generally supportive of. When it comes to these companies themselves, and when I say, go get your...
Okay, this less about Vosh, more about Charlie Kirk. We're going to fast forward because he says a few telling things.
The CEOs who did the work.
I'm just curious, does that ever make you stop short and say, maybe they're trying to massively inoculate us on a vaccine that might not be as effective to try to pursue profit, not well-being? Does that ever enter into your...
Say, doesn't Charlie kind of sound suspicious of these big pharma? Oh, they're just doing it because they want to inoculate us. They want to. I want to make sure I'm hearing that right.
Not the CEOs who did the work.
I'm just curious. Does that ever make you stop short and say, maybe they're trying to massively inoculate us on a vaccine that might not be as effective? To try to pursue profit, not well-being. Does that ever enter?
It's making it sound like this is all some big ploy to keep us coming back to buy their vaccines to keep us safe from COVID. And I'm not even sure Charlie is full anti-vax. He's just suspicious of it.
Into your...
But it's rather telling that this is his attitude toward vaccines and big pharma.
Calculation.
It's a consideration you should take about anything produced by any company that's run for profit.
And see, Vosh is like, oh, don't stop at big pharma. Be suspicious of any company that's pursuing profit.
Which is everything,
Charlie Kirk is apparently the best capitalism has to offer to stand up to goons like Vosh.
Maybe you would starve instead.
I actually think this has been really constructive and not like that, inflammatory. I think that deep down you have this kind of, urge that I'm already there. Where
he's already there.
Maybe they want this thing to go on for another decade to go make another $100 billion, and maybe
big pharma. They just want COVID to keep going on forever. Which COVID's probably going to be around forever, right? It's probably going to be something we have to deal with, but. Charlie seems to think that, big pharma, they just want it to keep going so that...
there, where maybe they want this thing to go on for another decade to go make another $100 billion. And maybe the cheap drug of hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin might work better than they might think.
But if they want to profit off hydroxychloroquine, then I guess it's all good. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck point he's trying to make. But the point is that when it comes to anti-vaccines from the right, I think you could probably say a lot of it is just political tribalism, that now everything is a political battle, and a lot of people on the right, because these vaccines are really being pushed by what a lot of people might call left-wing media, by the Biden administration, by the big corporations that are run by left-leaning people, by the establishment. And now that Trump, their Lord and Savior, is out of office, we don't really want the vaccine. I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of that. But I think it's rather telling that a lot of major prominent people on the right have this attitude toward vaccines, this very suspicious attitude of the profit motive. And that's why they don't trust it.